all to the Middleton City Hall, and this is the first meeting of 2023, and I'm going to call the meeting to order, and the first item is the roll call. Brian?
Alder Hanero,
Here.
Alder Wokus,
Here.
Alder Ramsey,
Here.
Alder Nelson,
Here.
Alder Kuhn,
Here.
Alder Fazard is absent, Alder Olson,
Here.
Alder Crow,
Here.
Mayor Brar.
Thank you. Wow, great group of people here. Okay, so the next one is the public comments is limited to 3 minutes per speaker, and we are going to start with the chair of Springfield, James Pulvermacher. You have 3 minutes and identify yourself, and Brian is going to time you here.
Sure,
So,
that's
all right, go
fine.
ahead.
I should be short and sweet. I wanted to thank Brian. He was kind enough to send me an email, let me know about the overlay map you guys are going to be talking to later in your packet. And so we are opposed to that. We discussed that the last time we had our joint meeting with you, and we feel that that's a pretty important subject, and if we're going to deal with it, we should look at it together and come up with something in our 20-year plan. Because if you should decide to pass that tonight, just want to let you know, we would consider that a breach of our 20-year contract. So, with you, we have a 20-year agreement with you, and so we feel pretty strongly about this. I contacted the town of Middleton as a courtesy, and we both sent you a joint letter just stating that we were opposed to that, but I thought it was important enough that I should come in person. So, with that, that's it.
Well, I want to say thank you for taking the time and
Yeah.
letting us know. We may be 30 years too late for that one. So in any case, we will talk about it. So
So, yeah,
Thank
and I
you.
have a town meeting myself tonight, so thank you all for taking the
for
time to
coming.
listen to me.
Thank
Good
you,
night.
Jim. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, we don't, so Brian, you have his address? All right, very good.
My address?
Well, no, we will just come and find you. So, okay, anybody else who may want to speak at this time? Anyone has any comments, you have 3 minutes. As long as you identify yourself and give us your address. Anyone? Okay, all right, I'm going to close that part of the meeting. And the next is the public hearing. It's beyond 7:31, I think. So Altberry LLC, doing business as Monk's Bar and Grill, is requesting a Class B fermented malt beverage and Class B intoxicating liquor license. They are located at 8313 Murphy Drive with Broderick L. Feather 4086 Red Hawk Run, Black Earth, Wisconsin as the agent. Anyone who may want to speak either in favor or against this liquor license? Anyone who may want to speak either in favor or against this liquor license? Last call. Anyone who wants to speak for or against? Okay, I don't see any takers, so I'm going to close that part of the meeting, and we are going to go to the presentations, and we're going to be honoring one of the Eagle Scouts here. So, by the way, over the weekend, we honored 4 Eagle Scouts, and are they here? Any of the Eagle Scouts from Troop 140 we honored. So their names are Aaron Statner, Ethan Thom, Max Katzenmeyer, and Sam Gustafson. And now we're going to honor somebody with a very long name, which I asked them how to pronounce, and I hope I do it right. It's proclamation honoring Jaden Vijay Kula Surya. I think I see the smile there on their faces, and I did do it right, for receiving the rank of Eagle Scout. Whereas the mission of Scouts BSA is to prepare young people to make ethical and moral choices over their lifetime by instilling in them the values of Scout oath and law. And the Scouts achieve their ranking by fulfilling requirements in areas of leadership, service, and outdoor skills. And whereas an Eagle Scout is not just a rank or an award, An Eagle Scout is a friend, a scholar, a mentor, someone who betters themselves and their community. And whereas Jaden Vijay Kula Surya, member of the Scouts BSA Troop 16, Madison of the Glacier Edge Council, Madison, Wisconsin, received his Eagle Scout rank, the highest achievement attainable in Scouts BSA. And whereas Jaden has earned 95 merit badges, so 21 are required. And you can do your math. I have not come across any other Eagle Scout yet who has earned that many badges. And I thought this is simply remarkable. And other of you who are going on your Eagle Scout path, you're going to beat it, right? So the total badges available is, I think, 135 or somewhere around there. I just think maybe we have Bridget here. She would know the number.
Mr. Mayor, how many are required?
21.
Okay.
21 are required. And my son is the Eagle Scout too, but he didn't go anywhere there. So he's a great kid. I love him, but, anyway. So, so Jaden has earned 95 merit badges. And he has served in his troop as scribe and historian. He passed his Eagle Board of Review on October 25, 22. And whereas for his Eagle Scout Leadership Service project, Jaden led his fellow scouts in the construction and installation of true free little libraries. Wow, the education is always good. In Middleton's April Conservancy, and I'm sure our Kylie would be happy and some of the others as well. So, whereas in his many years of scouting, Jaden learned leadership and developed a passion to serve those around him and make a difference in his community. And now, therefore, on behalf of the city of Middleton, I hereby proclaim, recognize, and thank Jaden Vijay Kula Surya for his many accomplishments, passion for his community, and specifically for achieving the rank of Eagle Scout. We wish Jaden the best in his future. Let's give him a big hand. Isn't that amazing looking guy? I'll give this to you. This is your proclamation. You can look on the camera too. Again, great job. Do you have any other space left? Oh, wow. Congratulations. Thank you. Well, I also like to recognize that this time we have a lot of scouts here from Troop 40 and Troop 140. And some of your leaders, do you want to identify that which troops are here? Bridget, you want to say anything about 140 and?
No, not really. We've got a bunch of 140 up there and one girl from Troop 40. Yay.
Yay! Let's say yay!
25 girls currently in it. We started with a total of 5
Wow, wow. Bridget is.
years ago. So yeah, and of course 140 continues.
40 and 140 do a great job. And I know the Troop 40 has some of the women are an Eagle Scout. And Troop 140 has have more Eagle Scouts than any other troop which I know of in the area. So
I think we're close to, it was over close to maybe 190.
wow, wow. And there's another troop here, or?
Yeah, Troop 16 from West of Sacramento Parish, Jaden's troop.
Oh,
All right, let's give all the scouts a big hand. Okay, we are moving to move on to the next item here. It is approval of the consent agenda, and it has 6 items. Number 1, Middleton Common Council minutes of December 2022. We didn't have a meeting on January 3rd. Audit of the bills to be paid as approved by the Finance Committee. Alt Perry LLC, doing business as Monk Bar and Grill, is requesting a Class B fermented malt beverage and Class B intoxicating liquor license, which we had a public hearing about just only a few minutes ago. And a review of an application for transfer of retail licenses for sale of fermented malt beverages and intoxicating liquor from Hooks, Wisconsin, doing business at Tanner Bar and Grill. And number 5 is the amendment number 3 with Strand and Associates for construction phase services for Parmenter Street reconstruction. There's quite a bit of money there. And last item is amendment number 3, again with Strand and Associates for construction phase services for water and sewer utility of Pleasant View Road construction. Need a motion to approve.
Ramsey will move to approve.
Need a
This is
second.
Alder Kuhn, I'll second.
Okay, motion by Elder Ramsey and second by Elder Kuhn. Any question, comments, changes? Elder Lisa.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to note that in the Finance Committee meeting, both amendments 3 with Strand Associates did include the dollar amount in a not-to-exceed amount. I don't know if that
Okay.
means they need to be pulled out or if we can just amend that.
Larry.
Well, we have traditionally taken the view that when a matter is approved by the Finance Committee and is then taken to the council, unless the council wants to change it, the same conditions, or in this case, specific amounts that are specified in the documents would apply here. So, in my opinion, it is not necessary to reconsider them further, so long as it is to approve them in the same manner as they were approved by the Finance Committee.
Okay, so that is the motion. Approved as approved by the Finance Committee.
Okay.
For the, any other questions or comments? Otherwise, all those in favor of the motion for the approval of the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item number 1 under the agreements. This is the Stormwater Management System Maintenance Agreement with Fast Ventures LLC. And Sean, do you have any questions or comments, or should we just approve it? Is there anything which you want to say?
This really was reviewed by Eric Sorensen on our staff, but I haven't heard from him of any special conditions versus our standard template. So the recommendation is to approve.
Okay. All right, thank you, Sean. And need a motion to approve then?
Ramsey will move to approve.
Focus, I'll second.
Okay, all right. The motion has been made, has been seconded. So any other questions or comments? This is, it doesn't give a value here, but I'm sure Larry knows how much it is. So if there are no questions or comments, all those in favor of approving the agreement, management system maintenance, stormwater management system maintenance agreement with Fast Ventures LLC, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Number 2, agreement with Elevate Energy for energy efficiency navigator program in 2023. Need a motion.
This is Haniro. I'll move approval, subject to city attorney review.
This is Alder Kuhn, I'll second that motion.
Larry, something for you to review now. So,
Right.
Yes. Any questions or comments? Oh, yes.
Yes, I'll
Elder-
just go on the record again. I just know it's a fine program.
but I just am opposed to using ARPA funds for it. ARPA funds could be used for city facilities, and we have needs there. We heard the presentation at our last council meeting. One project, they spent $135,000 for one project, and these landlords are not, there's no income restriction associated with it. These landlords could live wherever, and they just, it's how they choose to maintain their properties. We're looking at 6 to 8 properties, which we could be giving landlords up to $50,000 each. I just don't think that's a fair distribution of our ARPA funds. It's going to enrich a few landlords. There were other programs that they talked about where they got grants and matching funds. They had Office of Energy Innovation, they had the PSC. There's a lot of other programs out there, and I want to make sure that Middleton, he said in his presentation that they will be looking for matching funds. They said they have a lot of benevolent donors that are give to this, and I want to see this maximized because these funds are, ARPA funds, how you can spend them, it's kind of precious. We don't have a lot of sources for our city facilities, and if we're giving it to this, I'd like to see these go as far as possible, but I don't support $300,000 for this program. And what I would like noted in here is that we were told that we would have we'd be evaluating the projects by the end of March, and we would know where we stand by October when budget time rolls around, because there's thoughts of adding even more money to this, and we need to know what these projects are doing by October. We need to know. We have to have that information. So I'd like some assurances that at the end of March, we're going to have the projects figured out which ones we're going to be evaluating, and then by the end of October that we know what kind of return we're getting on our $300,000.
Excellent. Kelly, you have a great opportunity here now to say anything, or Abby, or both. Anything which you want to add or answer, or great points. Yeah, Emily.
I'll just add that is the timeline that the program set forth, and I think they're in the spirit to meet that timeline aggressively, and I hear you on tax funds. However, I think that it's a great opportunity to see some investment in some property that is in a low economic area, because that is the regulations. But the buildings are in a low economic area, and I think it will be a great opportunity to see an outcome, the product of said investment, for which the match dollars come when you put money forth. So the reason that I say that is that when there's future federal funding for the green technology, we will see what was functioning, what functions here in the Midwest, especially in winter, and what is viable for our neighbors to adopt as a technology. So I look forward to the pilot, and I hope it does well.
Any other questions or comments? I'm sure that these guys will work very hard, Kelly, to make sure that these are the deserving people. These are not the landlords with big pockets that they get more of it. So I'm sure that there will be a lot of attention paid to it. Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, all those in favor of the motion to approve the agreement with Elevate Energy for Energy Efficiency Navigator Program in 2023, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so the motion passes 6-1, and we have one abstention, so one not here, so.
Not abstaining.
No, I'm sorry, I just.
Luke's not here.
Absent, so. Okay, 6-1. Okay, we are on to award of bid code professional services. Item number 1. That's right?
This is Alder Q, and I'll make that motion.
You do, all right, so let's have a second then.
Focus will second.
Well, let me first read this completely, but boy, that was quick, isn't it?
Sorry,
So,
I didn't mean to.
I have to be a little bit faster, so. Award of bid to Madrill Excavating for Parmenter Street reconstruction. You're talking about $1.3 million. Yes, Emily?
I'll make that motion to approve.
This
to
is
spend
Wilkus will
$1.3
second.
million. All right, so need a second.
Wilkus will second.
Okay. Sean, you do have an opportunity now. How are you going to spend this? This is the wise use, anything that you want to say or not say. This is a huge project. We have some grant funding for this one. We have been looking to do it for a long time. And it's going to take care of that Parmenter Street on the north end, which really needs work.
I think that might be our only concrete road, and it's about to go away. So,
It's the concrete? I didn't know it was.
it's mostly concrete with asphalt patching.
Okay. Yeah, hard to tell with that much patching, right? So you're all in favor of it. You're excited about it, Sean?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right. Any other questions or comments here? I see everybody happy, so all right. So all those in favor of the motion to give the award a bid to Madrill Excavating for Parmenter Street reconstruction, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Well, unanimous. Okay, we are on to item number 2. Award a quote to Fisher Brothers LLC for restoration and replacement of water slide platforms at Walter R. Bauman Aquatic Center.
This is Haniro. I'll move approval.
This is Nelson, I'll second.
Okay. Kylie, do you want to say what happened to these slides since you're here? So did you find that recently or it was in the, yeah. This is our new public lands director. Identify yourself. It's a good opportunity to say who you are.
Yeah. My name is Kylie Scherer. I'm the Parks and Recreation Director. The question was just how this was identified as a priority for the Aquatic Center. So this was identified through staff just reviewing the facility and the needs. There also, every 5 years, there's a water slide inspection that needs to be done. The water slide inspection was done in 2020, and so that's something that was in that report. And the water slides were currently painted, and the slides themselves, and just taking a look at the pictures that packet, that's something that is clearly a need for replacement. They're heavily used during the summer season, so taking that as a priority for safety, we're going to take a look at using those funds for safety first.
Thank you. And thank you for having 3 bids. It's always good.
And this is something that'll get done before the summer?
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to get it signed out tomorrow morning, that they can, I'm already working on the scheduling of the work so that it'll all be done prior to opening.
Awesome. Excellent.
Thank you, Kylie.
Yep.
Any questions for Kylie? Okay. Any other questions from anyone? Okay. All those in favor of the award of quote to Fisher Brother LLC for restoration and replacement of water slide platforms at Walter R. Bauman Aquatic Center, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We are on to item number 3. Award of quote to Lee Recreation for purchase and installation of shade structures.
This is Haniro. I'll move approval.
This is Nelson, I'll second.
Okay. Kylie, is there anything you want to say here? Yeah, so this will be what you're placing at the pool, right?
What was the question? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, you are placing at the pool, right? Is
Yep,
that-
the shade structures are all for at the aquatic center.
Okay.
Yep, so we have failing shade structures. One of them will be removed, and in the near future, some of those other structures will also have to be removed. So we're looking to be proactive in that, and then also increase safety with putting all of those structures on the deck and bringing people closer to the water for sight as well, and then adding a little color into the facility besides blue. So
Excellent, excellent. I know there's a big demand for these shades. I was walking around that in Lakeview Park, and they were wanting shade around that splash pad too. So just keep that in mind.
okay.
Any, Kathy?
What color are they going to be if they're not blue?
Yeah,
Team up.
anything besides blue. So I'm looking at like a lime green that complements some of the play features that are in there, I haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay.
So, all the way.
Wow, Kylie does not like the blue water, the blue sky.
We need some dimension. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Great question, Kathy. So, otherwise, if there are no questions or comments, and Kylie is happy, so all those in favor of the Wardock Code to Lee Recreation for purchase and installation of shade structure, say aye.
Aye.
Again, she had 3 quotes in this case as well. I think she's starting good. So we are on to miscellaneous item here. Consideration of adoption of an airport land use zoning ordinance referred from the Airport Commission. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, as one of this council's 2 representatives on the Airport Commission, I voted in favor of the commission's request to council to consider the feasibility, cost, benefits, and implications of adopting an airport land use zoning ordinance. The staff have looked into this, and based on their evaluation, I now move the council deny consideration of adoption of an airport land use zoning ordinance.
This is Olson, I'll second that.
Adoption or not the adoption?
Deny.
Deny the adoption, absolutely, okay. Okay, any other questions or comments? Any other questions or comments? Okay, so if there are no other questions or comments.
Well, actually, Mr. Mayor, in fairness to my Airport Commission colleagues, I would like to give a little more explanation.
Go ahead,
So this
Lisa.
recommendation comes to us because as a sponsor of an airport that receives Airport Improvement Program assistance, we're supposed to, and this is a quote, take appropriate action to the extent reasonable, including the adoption of zoning laws, to restrict the use of land adjacent to or in the immediate vicinity of the airport to activities and purposes compatible with normal airport operations, including landing and takeoff of aircraft. This is assurance number 21 in the long list of assurances that we signed on to. But adopting a zoning law isn't a requirement, and we are not bound by our FAA assurances to address compatible land use through zoning. That's stated in the letter, but that is inaccurate. It's not a requirement. A fellow commissioner who is a pilot gave me a copy of Land Use Compatibility in Airports, which was a gripping read prepared by the Compatible Land Use Planning Task Force, organized by the FAA's Southern Region Airports Division Office in 1998. And that report concluded that the use of zoning to control development in and around airport facilities has realized varied degrees of success. However, if put in place early enough, prior to the setting of the development pattern, and certainly before substantial subdivision of properties, zoning can be an effective tool to help eliminate or reduce incompatible development and land uses around airports, end quote. So we are well past this point with substantial development having taken place near the airport. And zoning might have been an effective tool for us if implemented 20 years ago, but it's not. And so now we'll have to look into other options to try to reduce incompatible land uses.
I agree. I think Rich Mori is here, who is our manager at the airport. Even he would say it's probably 40 years too late. So I have been, I used to rent a car, the Avis or whatever at that time. I used to go to this airport for a long, long time. So I know when it was surrounded by soybean fields and corn fields and where there's a business park there, it was all fruit trees. So we are at least 30, if not 40 years too late. Any other questions? Yes, Larry.
Yeah, just so everybody understands, the fact that we're not doing land use zoning at the airport has nothing to do with the city's existing height restrictions, which have been in place since we purchased the airport in about 2001. And airport height restriction is a different topic, although it's adopted under the same section of the statutes. And just like land use zoning, airport height restriction applies within an area. You've got the buffer zone shown in the council materials, and does regulate height in places other than the city of Middleton. So this is one place where the statutes expressly grant the right of a city with an airport to have zoning powers in another municipality based on the compelling public safety issues of making sure that airplanes don't run into buildings that are too tall. The other thing I just want to point out is this is not, our height restriction zoning is not extraterritorial zoning. Extraterritorial zoning is a cooperative process between the city and a town to develop what eventually is either a mutually agreeable set of restrictions administered by the city and by a joint planning committee. But an airport height restriction zone is administered 100% by the city. So there was a reference in the letter to extraterritorial zoning. It has nothing to do with extraterritorial zoning. But I'm not telling you whether to adopt this or not, but just remember, we do have long-standing similar requirements for height in that 3-mile overlay zone. And by the way, we didn't establish those unilaterally. They were established for us by the Division of Aeronautics. So it's entirely safety-based. It's not that we said, you can't have more than a 2-story building half a mile from the airport. It's all done by the Division of Aeronautics.
Larry, thank you for sharing your wisdom. Yes.
I have a question for Larry.
Yes.
Or whomever. Do you think that the other towns understand that it's not our making this height rule is federal?
Well, it was a city ordinance that adopted it, but the map itself was prepared for the city by the state Division of Aeronautics. So it's a state recommendation, but it is part of city ordinances. And, this is equally true, and I represent a town that has an airport, and they have height restrictions in neighboring city because they have that right.
My question is, do you think the towns, Springfield and Middleton, understand that it isn't our,
I'm not a mind reader.
Is it part of, you don't know if it's part of their problem with some of this stuff?
But Larry did say it is a city ordinance.
Yeah.
So, it was up to us to adopt or not.
Whoever the airport owner is, city, village, town, county, in the case of our airport, they have the right to adopt height restriction zoning.
And we did, so.
Makes sense.
From a practical standpoint, I don't think we need to worry about the town of Middleton and the town of Springfield putting up a 12-story building in a 3-mile radius of the airport.
Yes. Great point, Elder Ramsey. Any other quick points here? Otherwise, yes. Katie, you have some more points?
Nope.
Oh, okay, all right. Maybe do it, right? Okay, all those in favor of the to deny the motion, to deny the consideration of the adoption of airport land use zoning ordinance, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, passes unanimously. We are on to, wow, boy, we are making a lot of progress here. Item number 2, reschedule February 21st, 2023 Common Council meeting to February 22nd, 2023 for use of council chambers for spring primary elections, which is a very important function. So I think, who's going to make that motion?
This is Elder Kuhn. I'll make that motion.
Need a second.
This is Wokus, I'll second.
All right, and you all know why we are doing it, because the St. Bernard Church, they were hoping to finish their reconstruction part, but there's a delay in materials and all of those things, like other things, so they are not able to do it. So, okay, any other questions or comments? Otherwise, all those in favor of the motion, and remember to mark on your calendar. So if you come here on 21st, you will find a lot of people voting rather than the council. So all those in favor of the motion to reschedule February 21st, 2023 Common Council meeting to February 22nd, 2023 for use of the council chambers for the spring prime election, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes. We are on to item number 3, on-call inspector, stable request, staffing method change approval.
This is Alder Kuhn. I'll make that motion to approve.
Okay, need a second.
Olson, I'll second.
Okay, so anybody wants to say, Emily, you want to say or what we are doing here? It's just, we are short of people in the inspection department and we need more pool so that we can get job done.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I can, just as a point of information to provide the full council, what this request is really to allow us to establish a kind of an on-call tree, if you will, so that when our full-time staff are on vacation, we have a bench of people that we can call on a as-needed basis to fill in to do various inspections, whether it be electrical, plumbing, or full-blown inspections. This doesn't change the pay. We're not asking for any more money. We're paying people on an on-call basis as we would with any other. It's just kind of creating a larger bench from which we can pull from as the situation arises. The building inspector has been kind of building the need based upon the number of vacation days that the full-time staff typically use in a given year to kind of get a sense of how many days they'd need to have a substitute, if you will. So that's what's driving the 10 number. So again, it doesn't change the amount of pay, it just changes the head count because all of our inspectors do need to be city employees, even if they're on a on-call basis. They're all licensed. Many of them are retired, having a wealth of experience, some in the field. So it's just developing a stronger bench.
Thank you, Brian. Great explanation. So he's not asking for more money. Did you hear that? Brian is happy with what he has, so that's great. Okay. All those in favor of the motion to approve the on-call inspector stable request, staffing method change approval, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We are on to the ordinances. This is the second reading. And item number 1 is an ordinance to amend the fee schedule related to planning, zoning, land division, and sign permit review fees. Plan Commission approved it. We went over it last time. Need a motion to approve.
Ramsey will move to suspend the rules.
No, this is already second reading.
Oh, I'm sorry, second reading?
Yes.
I move approval of the second reading.
All right, need a second.
I'll second it. This is Nairo.
Okay, motion by Elder Ramsey and second by Elder Lisa. Any questions or comments? Let's make Abby happy. I guess she worked very hard in putting this, this is quite a table. They looked at what the other cities are charging for various services, how much time they spend on each of those things. They didn't just pull this number out of the hat. They did some work on this. Okay, all those in favor of the motion, this is second reading and this is the final. An ordinance to amend the fee schedule related to the planning, zoning, land division, and sign permit review fees, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so Abby, it's done. So, okay, we are on to the resolutions. Resolution 2023-01 adopting certain equipment rates for contractor services and ordinance violation assessments. This we do it every year.
Olson, I'll move approval.
Okay, need a second.
This is Wilkus, I'll second.
Okay, any questions or comments? So is there any, this will be you, Sean, is there any change in fees or they're the same as before? More or less the same?
Well, the state, Wisconsin, occasionally updates their equipment rates, and we like to use those rates, the most current rates available when we have to charge for our services.
Okay, great. I mean, it's good to be consistent, right? So with the state. Thank you. Any questions for Sean? Okay. Otherwise, all those in favor of the motion to approve the resolution 2023-01, which is adopting certain equipment rates for contractor services and ordinance violation assessment, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We are on to item number 2, resolution 2023-02, petitioning the Wisconsin Secretary of Transportation for airport improvement aid.
This is Nairo. I'll move approval.
This is Alder Kuhn. I'll second.
Okay. So now this will just add to the list. It doesn't mean that we get all that money. And I know that our runway, as Rich can tell you, that it was micro-surfaced maybe about 1 or 2 years ago. So I didn't look at it. Our airport runway is in a good shape. But in another 4 or 5 years, it may need mill and overlay or some other things. But it's good to have more money rather than less. So just because we have more money, it doesn't mean that we are going to be reconstructing the whole thing. So we will be doing what's most appropriate. And also, we are not expanding the runway for all of you living in town or the town of Middleton or Springfield. The size of the runway remains 4,000 feet. We are not changing that. And there was some other misconception that maybe the runway will be stronger and the bigger or the heavier planes would be able to land. I think that's again, well, Rich can probably answer it, but Rich, the way you're moving your head, that no, it doesn't make any change, right?
That is correct. We're going to my understanding is we will maintain the same level of weight bearing on that runway. We'll maintain the same, we aren't changing designations on the airport.
Okay. So, Lisa, you have a question?
After you're done, Mayor.
So we are keeping the length the same. We are not increasing the strength. So it's just something which you have to do every few years. And in this case, it will be 2027, 28. Yes, Lisa.
Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to say that, again, I'm a member of the Airport Commission, and the Commission didn't actually see this resolution. If we had, I would have made the suggestions that I'm going to make now for council's consideration.
All right.
One, and I brought this up at the Plan Commission meeting, so I'll reiterate my request to remove purchase of unleaded fuel tank from the list of projects referenced. Bill, could you bring up the resolution?
Sorry.
On page 2 of the resolution. We're buying, I believe, still buying the fuel truck, and that takes the place of the tank. We discussed this at the Airport Commission meeting, and apparently that deleting the purchase of unleaded fuel tank never to the right people. So I propose that we delete that since we will not be installing a new unleaded fuel tank. I don't know if we need to consider these one by one, but I have another couple of items. If you go back to the previous page, Bill, the whereas clause that has all the bullets. The fourth line concerns me. It says the city shall appropriate. So the intro is, whereas the city recognizes that the city shall appropriate any additional monies that may be found necessary upon request of the secretary to complete a project included in this petition. I think that is way too strong. It ties our hands, in my opinion, by saying we shall do this when asked, and I would be much more comfortable if it said, whereas the city recognizes that the Common Council may be asked to appropriate. I think that change is important.
Well, can I respond?
Yes, lady.
I don't know if Mr. Opitz is here. He's probably the drafter of this. But I will say that two things. My guess is this language, as opposed to the purchase of the unleaded fuel tank, has been in every triannual resolution where we have petitioned Wisconsin Secretary of Transportation for airport aid. And more importantly, the point of this bullet is that if a project is approved by the department and funded traditionally on a 19-to-1 basis, 19 state and federal dollars to 1 city dollar, we must spend the $1 in order for the project to be approved. It's not something where it is optional. Now remember, we will have petitioned to get a project approved, whatever that project might be. this resolution doesn't approve any projects. But if we did, the secretary absolutely would mandate that the city pay its $1 to the $19. And so I think, I reviewed this before years ago, and I thought it accurately stated the relationship between the city and its receipt of state and federal airport aid.
Except,
Well,
Larry,
may I make-
could I just, that $1 comes from the enterprise fund, it does not come from the city, and we already have the money for those things in the enterprise fund.
That's
Yes.
great, but
Yes.
the point is, the city enterprise fund is not a separate legal entity. It's part of the city.
Yes, yes.
And that's internal to the city.
Yes.
The Bureau of Aeronautics doesn't care how we come up with the money, only that we are mandated to come up with it if we ask for the $19, and we are then agreeing to pay the $1. And I believe when we would make such a request, this would be restated in that request.
Okay,
Yes,
so
Lisa.
three points I'll make. One, just because it's been in every previous resolution doesn't mean it's good language. So I'll just say that. Two, I see your point, Larry, but I believe that's covered in the second bullet, which says the city recognizes that the proportionate cost of the airport development projects described below shall be paid by the city to the Secretary of the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. So we do have to pay our $1 if they're going to give us 19. That's already in there. It's the city shall appropriate additional monies. That's what concerns me, and I don't see any harm in changing shall to, the city shall to the common council may be asked to. I think that,
Do you have any problem, Larry?
Well, I've stated my position. I'm only an advisor. Council can
Okay,
do as it
so-
sees fit.
and then the third point, Mayor, you mentioned the Airport Enterprise Fund. That was actually going to be another suggestion that I would make, which is to add to the second bullet, from the Airport Enterprise Fund, after the second bullet I just mentioned about the proportionate cost. The proportionate cost of the airport development projects described below shall be paid by the city from the Airport Enterprise Fund to the Secretary of the Wisconsin Department of Transportation, because it isn't stated in here that that's where the money will come from.
Well, my concern there, and Bill, you can jump in immediately after, is again, if we ask for the $19, we have to pay the $1. And if our enterprise fund doesn't have any money in it, we're going to have to find a way to put money in the enterprise fund. If the enterprise fund is broke, we still have to pay. That's the point of the relationship between the city and the state agency.
We are very fortunate it's not broke, and
I know, but this is for
Right.
a long time. It's for
Yes.
3 years.
Right, well, and council would have to approve any funding request, and we can hash that out at the time, but I'd be much more comfortable if we made these changes to the resolution that supports this petition.
Okay, so Bill, and then we move forward. Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to note that in the past, the city has used TIF district funds for improvements at the airport, and that's included in the TIF project plan. And just wanted to provide the suggestion the council may not want to, at this time, restrict that would not be a possibility. That you might want to leave that open and something to be discussed when you're petitioning for specific projects.
I am aware of that, and yet I still make the request that we consider adding that language. And if you'll indulge me, I had one more request, and that is to include another be it further resolved. And that is a clause to enshrine something we've said elsewhere, both in writing and in person, but it's not in the resolution itself, and that is this. Be it further resolved that none of the projects would expand the footprint or the capacity of the existing airport, nor is the city obligated to proceed with any of these listed projects. That's taken from the memo.
Okay, so is that, okay, so Larry,
Well,
You're up.
I would suggest, since these are disparate topics, that they should be moved as amendments, and the council can then decide whether to adopt or reject the proposed amendments.
each one of them? Or
Yes.
could there be a separate?
I think they should be done individually.
So you think that we could come back and bring those separately, or
Well, I think you should.
do it now?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so,
Question?
yes, Kathy.
TIF funds, like we did with the fuel truck, or the TIF funds were used as part of the purchase of that, but we want that to be returned as a loan, you know, it's basically a loan that when they sell it. Could we have TIF funds, if the enterprise fund was broke, could TIF funds be put into the enterprise fund as a loan, or not?
Yeah, you can do a loan or an advance between funds. So essentially, so what it would be, it'd be advancing, as you're describing, advancing funds from a TIF to the airport fund with the intention the airport fund repay that. I guess it would depend on the exact wording of how you would be modifying this language on whether or not that would be allowable.
Well, TIF 3 is only good for a few more years anyway, right now, as it stands now, so.
So Kathy, you have a great point, because we did do that for the golf. We did give them
Okay.
loan for the TIF funds, and it can be done. Okay, so somebody want to make a motion? Let's get rid of the fuel tank to begin with, so.
Would you like to, I was going to
Yes.
do the one that's most important to me, but we'll go with that one. Okay, so I move that we remove on page 2 of the resolution, the words including purchase of unleaded fuel tank.
Need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, any further questions or comments?
I just have a question. Do we know for a fact that you can reuse the tank for the other gas?
Yeah, that's our understanding from
Yes.
Yeah.
from
okay.
talking with the manufacturers, that you can blend the fully universal 100 unlead with the 100 low lead once it's commercially available. Yes.
Okay.
That's a great
You
question.
cannot blend jet fuel with.
I knew there
gas.
was at some point we couldn't reuse the tank of something.
And you can't blend, so if, for example, the 94 octane that we're going to have in the separate truck, that cannot be blended with the 100 octane, because
right,
different octanes.
Yeah, it should have been actually really deleted. I mean, it should have been, because there was something which we were planning to do, and we rejected that, and I don't know why it's still there.
Well, it's in there as a point of information. It's in there, again, as with all these projects, as a safety net, if you will, in case something were to happen with the existing fuel tank that today houses the 100 low lead, and in the future will house the 100 unleaded. So, we have that in there in case, for whatever reason, between now and 7 years from now, if we needed to replace that fuel tank because of damage or whatnot, but, understand the policy reason to take that out.
Okay. The motion has been made, it has been seconded, and we had discussion. All those in favor of the motion to remove the unleaded fuel tank, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
Aye.
So that's 3-4.
Do you want to do a roll call?
Yeah.
Go roll call.
Okay, let's have a roll call.
Okay, give me 1 second here. Panero?
Aye.
Focus?
Nay.
Ramsey?
Nay.
Nelson?
Aye.
Kuhn?
Nay.
Olson?
Aye.
Crow?
Aye.
So 4-3 passes, so. All right, what is the next one?
Okay, the next one, I move that we add another be it further resolved clause to say, be it further resolved, none of the projects would expand the footprint or the capacity of the existing airport, nor is the city obligated to proceed with any of these listed projects.
Need a second.
Olson, I'll second.
Okay, any questions or comments? It's usually, that's usually the case. I mean, just because they're in a list there, doesn't mean that they will be done.
I guess
Yes,
I just need
Emily.
some oh, sorry.
Can
Go
you
ahead.
bring it up on the screen, just so I know which segment you're at?
Well, it'd be a new whereas clause that's not yet been written, so it would be added into this.
Or where it would go?
It would go anywhere in the be it
Yeah.
further resolved area.
So probably somewhere around here.
And
maybe
if you'd
this
like to
second
see
one.
the language, it's in the middle of Mark Opitz's memo.
Okay, Rich Mori, please go ahead and come to the,
And while we're waiting for Rich to reach the microphone, I'll just say, it seems to me if we're willing to put this in writing in many places and speak it to our residents and our neighbors, I think it's fair to put it in the resolution.
okay, all right, Rich, go ahead.
Okay, again, I'm Richard Morey. I am the airport manager at Middleton Municipal. The verbiage of capacity is open to a lot of debate. If by repaving our runway, we were going to increase our capacity by allowing aircraft to land versus having a lousy runway, that could be, I'm uncomfortable with that statement. I'm not uncomfortable with us not expanding. That's pretty much a given as far as I'm concerned. But I do believe that words have meaning, and that one is ambiguous enough to cause us trouble down the road. Now, I would like to speak also to the verbiage, as Larry pointed out. I do believe that the state requires the language that is in that contract. Now, you can double check me on that, but that is, I think I've been around this block a couple times, and I'm pretty sure that that's what they require.
Thank you. Lisa?
Two things. One, I'm comfortable making an amendment to my amendment to take out the words "or the capacity," because Mr. Morey's right, that is a vague term.
I accept that change.
Okay.
And then second, regarding what's required to be in there, according to Wisconsin statute 114.33, 114.33, section 2, the initiation of a request for funding shall be by a petition filed with the secretary by the governing body, setting forth, among other things, and it goes on to list a bunch of other things, and it ends with, and any other statements that the petitioners or the department may desire to make.
Okay.
So I think it's fair to include whereas, or be it further resolved.
Okay. And, okay, so any further questions or comments?
Tell me what the amendment is now.
If you go to the memo, or go with the memo, Bill.
It's about halfway down. None of the projects would expand the footprint, and then strike the words "or the capacity of the existing airport." And you also wanted,
Yeah, nor is
nor
the
is the
city
city
obligated.
yeah.
Yep. So
So it's
basically that middle sentence.
It's that sentence,
Minus or the
beginning with
capacity.
none.
Okay. Elder Ramsey, are you okay?
And we're striking capacity.
Yes.
Correct.
Yep. Okay, any other questions or comments?
Excuse me.
Otherwise, all those in favor of this amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, and the third one, I move that we change the fourth bullet of the sixth whereas clause to replace the city shall with the common council may be asked.
Okay, need a second?
Olson, I'll second.
Okay. Okay, any questions or comments? I think shall is very strong word, isn't it, Larry?
Did you want to reference any part
As
there?
I indicated, it shall, because it is a shall obligation. If we're getting the $19 from the state.
Larry,
It is a shall, and we have approved numbers of projects at the airport where the city paid its figurative $1 and the federal government through the State Bureau of Aeronautics paid their $19.
I think
But
that,
it is the standard way we do things.
That obligation, that shall obligation is in bullet 2.
yeah, well, I guess I don't, Kathy, I have no problem, simply asking the city council, if it's reasonable, city council is going to prove it.
Right.
So I think, yes, Kathy?
I just wanted to ask Mr. Murray, is this something that you said is dictated by the DOT to have the shall in this? Or
No, that's
that's a
Larry's
different,
question.
different?
No,
Different?
Oh,
Rich
okay.
wants to
Yes,
answer.
Rich, go ahead, please come to the
Do
microphone.
you know if this is where what you're saying, where they have
Knows a
the,
lot more about airports than anyone else in the
Oh,
room.
okay.
I've been doing this, well, the entire time that the airport has been owned by the city, essentially. And I do believe this came up in the past, and I do believe the explanation was this is the verbiage the state wants to see, whether that's by regulation or by culture, I'm not positive. But that's my impression.
Okay.
I'm concerned, I don't want this to jeopardize how they're reviewing our requests.
Could we bring Mark to the front, please?
And Mark, if you want to say or add anything,
I have a question for him.
Elder Ramsey has a question. Yes, Mark Opitz, please come to the
Come on
speaking
down.
platform.
Mark, you've done a few of these.
Yes, this, you're talking about the fourth bullet point? That's just the same language we've used for several resolutions. It's taken from the boilerplate resolution, the template that the state gives us.
Am I correct in remembering we had this discussion with them the last time changing the language, last time we did this petition? It said that this is the language they wanted?
Well, it wasn't specific to this bullet point. I think that had to do with land use language, if I recall, and the mayor was involved in that issue as well. That was where the debate was about language that was pertaining to land use. I don't recall this bullet point specifically being discussed previously. If you want, we can look into it. It doesn't have to be adopted tonight. It could be adopted at your next meeting too, if you want us to look into that. But all I can say is it's been in previous resolutions for as long as I can remember. Yep.
So, Elder Lisa, is it okay if we delay it for some other time, or?
Yes, if we don't have to, if there's no sense of urgency to get this passed tonight, I
Or
would,
you mean you want to delay the whole thing?
Yeah.
I think that's what
Oh,
Mark just
okay.
indicated.
Yeah, go ahead, Kathy.
I'm not on airport commission, so when you're putting this list together, and I know it has, this is how much funds, this is how much it costs, you have that budgeted already, that their funds are available if this project is approved, correct? Is that how you look at that? You don't wait for it to be approved and then go back and look at how many?
Well, to answer it directly, in the third whereas, the second line, this is a petition listing potential projects at the airport for which the city may wish to seek state and federal funding assistance over the next 5 years. So I'd say the odds are 100% that we do not have money set aside for all of the
them,
items that were listed in here. This could change dramatically. This is rather intended to prescribe the maximum amount of projects we would ask for, but we might not ask for any of them. So this has nothing to do with currently appropriated funds.
We're asking for them, we're asking for the projects, but we may not be asking? I didn't understand that, Larry.
We're basically putting our foot in the door.
It's a wish list, Kathy.
It's
So
a wish list.
It's a wish list, and it's always good to have more than less, so.
But we have the opportunity to say,
But if we
That
were to
wasn't the best wish.
apply for a specific project, presumably at that point, we would not make an application until we had a funding source
Okay.
for the city's portion of the project.
got it.
And, not all the projects are 19-1. The runway and things like that are, but, there's different rules for different things. But I'm just using that simplistically.
All the 19.
Elder Lisa? And
I
then
was
Mark.
just going to say, Mr. Mayor, I'm willing to rescind my motion to approve the resolution and come back to this at the next council meeting with the changes that we already agreed to.
I'll rescind my second also.
Okay.
Send and defer at the same time?
I don't know that it'd be,
Rescind all the rest of the parts?
What's that?
Does it rescind all the parts that we've?
If she rescinds, we start over, then
yeah, I'd be a motion to defer to a future meeting for discussion.
All right, I'll do that instead. I'll defer.
I'll
So-
second the deferral.
So then the motions which we have approved now, would they be done again? Larry, what happened?
Yes, sorry,
Those-
point of information. As they've been adopted by the council, this item would be, tabled is the wrong word, but postponed to a future meeting. We'd bring it back with the two changes that have already been adopted by council, red lines, so you can see them there. We'll also redline in, we'll leave it at that, and then at that time, members of the council could make any other amendments that they'd want to discuss at that time.
Okay,
And at that time, by then, we should get clarification of whether this is mandated verbiage. And then also, council members can think about whether or not they want to, and we can look into whether or not it's advisable to add specifically that the funding will come from the Airport Enterprise Fund.
Sounds like a good idea. So, Mark, you have
If I
any
can,
quick-
I'm not going to be available at the next meeting in case the question comes up, so I wanted to offer it now. What this really does, that list, the project list, what it really does is it helps the state budget. So they look at 5 to 6 years with our petitions, and they say, oh, we should anticipate runway repair at Middleton's airport and other airports, et cetera. And so this helps them budget out, plan out how the funds that they have get allocated to airports. And so it doesn't mean we have to go ahead with it, but it's really a tool. This gives them a tool to help with their planning for their funds. So that's why this doesn't have to be done today. It could be done in 2 weeks or 4 weeks. But they want us to have a current list of items, and since it was identified that the pavement will need some rehabilitation, possibly reconstruction in the future, they just said it was prudent for us to get in the queue because it takes many years to get in the queue for funding for these projects.
Thank you, Mark. Motion is to defer the resolution 2023-02 petitioning the Wisconsin Secretary of Transportation for airport improvement aid. All those in, yes.
Just a question for Larry. Again, one of Lisa's points about the bullet point under that whereas section, if number 2 is very similar to number 4, if we could have some clarification on that by the next time too.
Well, that'd be great. Again, I didn't draft this resolution. And I'm sure that the overlap is just as present in the standard resolution that they give to all the airports, and so don't shoot the non-drafts people.
No, because I of this part, that was one point that Lisa made that I still have questions on too. So if either within the draft or legally what we have in there.
Excellent, Randall. Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, all those in favor of the motion to defer resolution 2023-02 say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We are on to ward of court. No. That's not. Yeah.
Polling place,
Yeah, that's the wrong thing.
2023-03.
We are on to item number 3, resolution 2023-03, changing polling places from wards 5 to 8 and 21 at the February 2023 primary election. Need a motion to approve.
This is Nelson. I will move approval.
Okay, motion by Alder Nelson. Need a second.
This is Alder Kuhn, I'll second.
And second by Alder Kuhn. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, one comment.
Yes, Larry.
The version in the council says whereas in the first whereas. We have submitted a corrected version that corrects that horrendous oversight.
This is the approval of the, Alder Nelson, you agree that is the approval of the corrected whereas?
Yes,
So,
approval of the
yes.
corrected.
Thank you, Larry. Good job. Okay, all those in favor of the motion to approve the resolution 2023-03, changing polling place from wards 5 to 8 to 21 at the February 2023 primary election, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. We are on to the committee appointments. This is somebody who just resigned, and I'm appointing Richard Bry. I'm nominating the Richard Bry to the Aging Commission. Need a motion to approve.
This is Alder Kuhn, I'll make that motion.
Need a second.
Mrs. Wilkes, I'll second.
Any questions or comments? He's a great guy. All those in favor of the motion to approve the appointment of Richard Bry to the Aging Commission, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. We are on to the referrals. This is me. So you already, all of you got these papers here. This is the, referring the, anyway, so I'm going to talk to you about the Middleton Area Development Corporation. This is what the referral is about. So I just learned today, this was created by Mayor Walter Bauman in 1969. This was our second mayor right over there. So Larry probably knows it. Were you around, Larry? Or not that? Okay, so it was created to help with the economic development of the Middleton by attracting new businesses to relocate and help with the other infrastructure needs to grow. It has been very successful in creating business park. One of the places I actually worked, the Agri-Ceres. If you were to go on the north side of the Highway 14, all that business park was essentially created by the Middleton Area Development Corporation. That was long ago. So, and then it was inactive for some years. It was reactivated by our mayor Doug, and he put $2 million of TIF money, the public funds. And this already had $540,000 in that one. So at that time, when they started on 12/31/01, it had $2.54 million of public money. In 2010, and at that time, we also had the economic development agreement with MADC, which worked very well. So in 2010, Larry can tell you more about it. That money grew up to be $3.64 million. And there was also ruling by the Wisconsin Supreme Court. There were some little hitches there that these corporations and the cities can't work that closely. And so at that time, city made a decision, and Larry Beckler actually wrote that dissolution memo where we dissolved the economic development agreement which we have with MADC. And the city and MADC has worked very closely. And all along, mayor and one elder were members, and the city administrator was at most of the meeting when I was. And thereafter, Abby Toon used to be in those meetings. And there was an annual report presented to the city council at least up to 2019. Until this year, the mayor or his designee and the city council elder were board members, and Abby used to attend the meetings and update about the city projects. I attended a lot of those meetings. In May of this year, as soon as we have a new city administrator and the old city administrator leaves, everything changes. So as soon as the city administration changed, MNDC changed its bylaws to eliminate the mayor or the city council elder on the board by June 24. Right now, we have one elder, Ramsey, serving on that one. But again, in the past, the nomination made by the city council were the board members. But in this case, they actually had to approve, and they could actually reject our nomination. So the big change. And this was done without any consultation with the city whatsoever. Our director since 2019 are required to sign a non-disclosure agreement, which is very troubling. And as Larry can tell you, you told me that you are not aware of any other development corporation where such a provision exists.
I am not.
So this is absolutely outrageous. They can't even say that, we are the director of the MADC. And right now, I don't even know who is serving on MADC. So I read through today, and it just is simply unacceptable. So I'm appointing our city attorney, Larry Beckler, and city administrator, Brian Gatto, to work with MADC to restore the MADC bylaws to maintain the city membership on the board of the mayor and elder it used to be. I actually would like that this should be restored to the bylaws we had in 2010 when we dissolved the economic development agreement. and to have a annual financial report representation to the city council, complete. And then provide transparency and accountability to the use of public funds. This money, this came from the city, $2.54 million. This is public money. I know some of the people on the board were saying, it's our money. It's not, it's public money. So there has to be transparency and accountability to the use of public funds, just like other similar organizations in Wisconsin. There is a Madison Development Corporation. They have a complete accountability, and it's all transparent. And even one of the similar corporation, Beaver Dam, on which the Supreme Court has ruled, they have the same accountability, and they even give the detailed plans, and there's a complete auditing of what they're doing. So, and there are probably, Larry can give you zillion other examples. So this is just not having a accountability and transparency for the public funds. It's absolutely unacceptable anywhere in Wisconsin or even the U.S. So then I would also like the staff should be attending the meeting as they used to be, because they actually, this is a close cooperation between the city and the Middleton Area Development Corporation. So if the city, if MADC doesn't even know what's happening with the city, how are you going to cooperate? So in the past, I know the Mike earlier, he will, update, these are the projects which city is doing, and these are the people who might have the needs. So he will bring those people for funding and all of those things. And then Abby did. Great job, Abby. So the last one is work closely with the city to ensure the best use of the public funds. We will use options to ensure accountability and best use of the public money. So you will ask, who is MADC responsible to? Right now, none. They can change their rules and do whatever they want to do, and they have. And I think there has to be some accountability, and that has to change. So right now, I'm appointing this committee of two, and I'm asking them to report, give them the dates 4 weeks from now, and see where we are, rather than going into litigation. I think this is probably the step we should take. So this is for your information. So any questions or comments?
Vote on this?
No, it's the mayor's
I
referral.
don't. Dan, you've attended the meetings? How many of you attended? And I'd like your take on this a little bit, what you see. You know who's on the board, right? You said nobody tells him anything.
I think that, the communication has broke down between the board of MADC and the city. As far as when they used to come and give us reports, and whose fault that is, at this point, I don't know. If the purpose of this referral is for the two people that are integral in the communication to get together, sit down, and figure out a way to move forward working together, then I'm all for this. I've said this publicly before, and I've said it to MADC, that, we should be a cooperative, we should be on the same team. We are all out for the same thing on the same team. And I think communication has broke down. If this referral for Larry and Ryan to talk with the MADC president and come to an understanding to get communication back to where it has been historically, I'm perfectly fine with this.
And that's exactly what it is, yes. Any other questions or comments?
When I read this, I was like, okay, the letter that you drafted is, we need to meet as soon as possible, and bring your attorney. Is like, to me, that was just like, I wouldn't go anywhere near it. I wouldn't,
Well, that's, I think that in lies some of the issue that we have. Both parties are so mistrusting of each other right now.
Yeah.
That that there needs to be something to bring both parties together, and if this will bring both parties together, I'm in favor of this.
Well, I think that before, Robert, he's still on it, isn't he? And I'm not sure what the trigger was. I don't think Brian Gatto was the trigger.
Well, I hope not, but it was such a coincidence. I mean.
No, I don't. And
Well,
I don't think.
It's 22nd or 19th of May, and so you joined on May 3rd or 5th. 5th?
I think, I don't.
Yeah. So we're just, it's strange in any case. So, but I'm with Ella Ramsey. We have to work together. It's the public money. We have to, there has to be communication. We have to know where that money and where it's going. And I have asked for those reports, and they just completely neglected and ignored, period.
Alder Ramsey, if they talked about coming, giving a presentation of the highlights, I mean, there's good things, I mean, there's got so many things to brag about, and.
I think that they would probably be happy to do that.
Right. And.
I still think, and then I am still of the opinion that if they can sit down and would not be where we are today, but for the fact that people just didn't want to communicate.
And I won't give you more details. It's, and yeah, I will stop there. So, I mean, I have tried it multiple times.
Yeah, I just don't see where that they didn't want to give us a presentation or update or anything.
Any other questions or comments? Not only that, well, I could go into more details.
That's fine,
but,
if you're fine. I just think this is a lot.
Yep. Well, this is the mayor's referral, and I talked to both of them. They are both willing to serve on it, and they are both very competent, and I'm very certain they're going to work hard, start working on it tomorrow morning. Okay, so the last item is they need a motion to go into closed session.
Mrs. Alder Kuhn will make that motion.
Need a second.
This is Wokus, I'll second.
Okay, any questions or comments? Otherwise, all those in favor of the motion to go into closed session, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes.
He's not.
I'm surprised he's.
Okay.
You ready?
Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
He didn't-
Need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Need a second.
This is Kendra, I'll second.
All those in favor of the motion to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Well, we are adjourned. The best part was the Boy Scout.